All right, y'all, it is time for episode 69 of the Quintuple M, my Monday Mr. Money Mustache motivation. Today's episode is coming from Mr. Money Mustache's blog post from January 30th, 2012. If you are unfamiliar, Mr. Money Mustache is probably the most famous financial independence blogger out there, and I love him. I love his writing style and sense of humor, so Mondays are dedicated to Mr. Money Mustache on my channel. Today's article is titled, "Your Money Can Work Harder Than You Can," and I will have this article linked in the description box below. At the end of this video, I will link all of the other Mr. Money Mustache videos that I have done for y'all if you are interested in learning more. I've been adding up the number of hours I worked last year just out of curiosity. The biggest burst of it took place in November and December when I was renovating the new rental house. Man, I sure felt like I was working hard at the time, 5 days a week, for all of my available time. Designing, prying, cutting, smashing, carrying, building, tiling, climbing, crawling, bleeding, swearing, laughing, gluing, nailing, and on and on. I ate my lunches while walking around and continuing to work, and I barely had time on the weekends to catch up on real-life groceries and cooking. But when you add it all up, it was really only a little over 200 hours of work at a typical solid working wage of $35 per hour, almost 5 times the US minimum wage. This adds up to about $7,000. It's a good chunk of money, enough to buy a fairly new car, or for a single person to live frugally for a year. So I was proud of myself doing this much work even during retirement, even though I won't technically get paid for it until sometime this year. But while I was doing all this real work, my old forgotten money collection was also working. My old stalwart rental house silently delivered 2 rent checks, yielding about $4,000 after accounting for expenses. The main house provided me with mortgage-free living, saving about $3,000 in interest payments compared to someone who had bought an equivalent house to me with no money down. Well over $1,000 in dividends reinvested themselves into more shares in index funds, whose share prices also tend to appreciate over time as well. A lack of student loans, car loans, and credit card loans on the various material goods we bought over the years and still use today saved us another $1,000 in interest expenses. Investments made in home energy efficiency saved hundreds more. All in all, the stash, which is simply money earned in the distant past that I invested instead of spending, earned at least $9,000 during the 2 months, while I only earned $7,000 working my ass off. I found this quite amazing, since this is a collection of assets, the money, not the buttocks that is, that most people consider to be not enough to retire on. What I realized is that it is very easy to end up with an army of dollar bills, tireless employees that end up working much harder than you do. Mine have already almost overtaken me. To maintain my current lifestyle without any savings, I'd have to work extremely hard just to stay afloat. Even a short-term job loss would lead to disaster. But this inequality will grow even further over time. Since we're not spending everything the stash provides and are even adding to it occasionally, its earning power will tend to increase. Within 10 to 15 years, it'll be doubling its current production, meaning I'd have to go back to software engineering to even keep up with it. As it grows, its output will dwarf our spending further and further, meaning the reinvestment rate will get closer and closer to 100%. By the time I'm at the standard retirement age, this money mustache will be producing so much income that I couldn't match it even if I took 2 engineering jobs and worked them simultaneously. If I'd been crazy enough to keep working to my current age and saving at the usual rate, the stash would be several $1,000,000 by now, giving off passive income of over $150,000. If I continued working until age 65, saving and reinvesting, it would be in the tens of millions, and the passive income would be over $100,000 per month, inflation adjusted. I could fund an empire of children and grandchildren who never have the pleasure of having to work for their own money, and keep them busy with private jet flights between family compounds in various countries, which is of course the unwise path chosen by many of the world's rich people today. What I'm talking about is pretty old news. It's the foundation of capitalism itself, but the sheer speed at which a snowball like this can form astounds even me. To me, it feels like I just finished school a few years ago. I look roughly the same as I did as a 20-year-old with no savings, save for a tiny bit of salt and pepper in the facial hair. I still have to show ID occasionally at the liquor store. I got the same job as my peers, led roughly the same lifestyle, but I just skipped a few new car purchases and Apple brand laptops and shopping mall sprees and self-imposed commutes. Nothing major, just some of the fluff, and whoosh, here is the sticky ball of cash now rolling along behind me, just about to run me over. How the hell did that happen so quickly? I still want an Apple laptop. I am not as strong of a mustache as some out there. Continuing on. So remember that when you're making seemingly small money decisions as a young person, you can put that $100 bill into your pipe and smoke it, or you can roll it up and stick it into the cash ball that you've started pushing along. Don't be discouraged by the deceptively small size of the ball right now. The time from the first dollar bill until the time it starts outworking you is tiny compared to your lifespan. You can roll it up now and then have it push you along nicely for your whole life. Or you can take baby steps of saving for your whole life and then have the helpful cash ball appear just in time for your old age if you're lucky. Have a great Monday. Well, that worked out nicely since I do these on Monday. So yeah, I love this article. This one I like because it again highlights the importance of saving when you're younger. A lot of people mistakenly believe, I would say the vast majority of people mistakenly believe when they're young, well, I don't have a lot of money to invest right now, I'll worry about that later. Yours truly was in that camp when I was in my 20s and didn't know any better. But here's the thing about how compound interest works. It is more about the time that you have available to let compound interest work rather than the money that you have available to invest. Time is the most powerful factor in compound interest. So the earlier you can get started, the better. If you've been sitting around on the sidelines waiting to get invested, if you've been listening to people who are saying, oh, the market's at all-time highs, now's not a good time to start investing, well, it's not anymore. At the time I'm filming this, the markets are down. So if you have considered getting started with investing, go ahead and do it now. Realize the markets may drop further, but in the long term, the markets will come back and go back up. So I hope y'all enjoyed this one. This one was on the shorter side. The article I'm reading next week is on the longer side. So stay tuned for that one. I'll see you a week from now for the next episode of the Quintuple M. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.